I'm Jamie O'Kane, CPA, Small Business Advanced Tax Planning and Compliance Extraordinaire, and this is the Abundant Beans Podcast, the podcast that takes my love for learning what makes people tick while digging into the good, bad, and ugly of small business ownership. We strive to give you the insight that only those in the trenches of being and working with entrepreneurs can provide. Today, we're going to welcome back to the podcast Travis Baird. Travis is a mindful business coach, speaker, and founder of Mindful Productive, where he helps ambitious entrepreneurs to get the clarity, confidence, and control, all the C's, they need to do their best work without burnout or overwhelm. This January, Travis and his wife, Megan, co-founded Visualized Copy, where they specialize in email copywriting for coaches and course creators. Travis lives in San Antonio, and when he's not coaching or copywriting, you can find him running on trails, baking bread, or playing the viola, or petting cats.
Or petting cats, yes. I took out the line about my cats just for brevity, you know. If you want to know about my cats, go listen to my previous episode.
We did talk about your cats a lot on that episode. I don't even really remember. It's been a long time. But we'll drop it in the, or somebody will. But I'm saying this so that it gets done. We'll drop it in the show notes. So you guys can go learn about, we talked a lot about mindful productive and meditation and stuff like that, I'm assuming, probably.
Yes, we did.
So I've been doing coaching with Travis actually for 5 months now.
Yeah, about.
Yeah, Travis is helping me figure out how my life works. It's been really good. So we have a lot of things to talk about. I think we're going to talk about some of the tools that have been really helpful for me and my team. And they're simple tools, which makes them sustainable, especially for us ADHD people.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So, but first, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh man, my biggest pet peeve. I feel like, one of the ones that has been really getting me lately, is when you go on somebody's sales page for like a course, and you see there's always this section like who this course is for, who this course is not for, right? We've all seen these. And almost always there are these lines that are like, okay, who this is for. If you're going to take it really seriously, and if you're ready to make a big change in your life, and if you're going to do everything that I tell you to do and be open-minded. And then there's the who this is not for. If you're a jerk who's going to be a jerk to me, this isn't for you. If you're closed-minded, like these are all good things. I totally understand. Like I know I've written sales pages like this for my own stuff in the past. But lately I've been seeing it a lot. And so it's been grading slowly away. I'm not sure it's my pet peeve, but it's one that's top of mind. Right
That's all right. And like Travis is such a chill dude. So it's like, if it bothers you, I feel like it's like a big deal almost.
Well, I saw 2 of them yesterday on 2 separate sales pages just while I was doing research. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like, nobody's going to like pay for a course and be like, I'm not serious.
Yeah.
And like, nobody like identifies as a jerk, right?
Right.
Jerks generally don't know they're jerks.
Yes.
Right? They're like,
exactly.
Oh, well, I'm just direct or whatever they think they are. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, it just always makes me laugh.
Yeah. It's just a waste of space. Like it's they're not bad things to say. They're not like wrong. It's just, you could use that space on your sales page for so much better stuff. Like actually talk about what makes somebody qualified or not qualified.
Yeah. And I think, if you know your niche, you know who's qualified, or like, the personality type, or, like what speaks to them, I'm finding, and I've been, thinking about this a lot. Right before we started recording, I was telling Travis a story where I figured out the personality type I cannot deal with. Like, it's just been becoming more solidified every interaction I have with this type of personality. And I just pretty much had a visceral nope, not happening. That's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something I think for me, and maybe for a lot of people who are listening, who, early on in our careers, we have a tendency, or at least I had a tendency to kind of accept situations that were not ideal. So, and working with people who I now look back and know that I knew then I shouldn't be working with.
We all do. And we all do that. Like,
exactly.
I still have some of those clients.
Oh yeah.
And we just kind of work around them because I've learned how to work around them, which is also good. Right.
Yeah.
So but you also solidify who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with.
Yeah.
But it's figuring that out up front, which is the hardest part, I think, for me.
It is. Yeah.
And we can talk about that and then I'll ask you other questions. But like Travis and I could probably just talk all day. How do you, because I know you and Megan are doing some copy stuff. So talk to us about visualized copy and how are you helping people kind of really get to the meat of like who they want to work with?
Yeah. So at Visualize Copy, we specialize in email copywriting, particularly working with coaches and coaches and course creators. I realize there's 3 C's in that also. I've got a thing for C's, apparently.
I like it.
So we specialize in working with basically people who have online businesses with personalities behind them. And one of the things that we really focus on a lot in our business is helping people write welcome sequences or nurture sequences that actually convey both who they are in a genuine and authentic way, but that also help their readers, their subscribers, feel an empathetic connection to them. And like they actually care about them because they do, hopefully. We want everyone we work with to care about the people they work with. But to really build that relationship in a natural way so that you build know, like, and trust, and you don't come off just sounding like a gross corporate, personality list thing, which was, I don't know about you, Jamie, but when I first started my first business, and of course I wrote all my own copy because I couldn't hire anybody at that point.
That's what you do.
Exactly. It's what you do. And because my writing experience was all in an academic context, everything I wrote was correct. It was correct. But it was so boring to read and like had no personality and it was really difficult to convey any kind of empathy when you're coming off as cold and dry, as you might imagine. Yes.
I think I have the opposite problem. I'm at the point like in my life where I just write the way that I would speak. And I did an article for Intuit and I sent it to the editor and he's like, I have a lot of changes. I hope you don't feel like, just know, like, this is what I do. I was like, oh no, you're fine. Like, I assumed you would have like text, he had like clarity changes and I was like, okay, like, that's not what I do. Right. And I'm more worried about my voice than I am about, it being technically correct or whatever. Like, I don't have time for that. That's your job. That's why you're the editor.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because writing with a really compelling voice and like with your actual voice, that is a higher level skill, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's a higher level skill than editing. Like having things be correct, that's an editor's job and that's really important. And editors are absolutely necessary. And I love editors. But it's a skill that you can, it's easier to learn than this kind of like natural writing, at least for a lot of people. For me, it's that way.
Yeah. And I think, some of that probably comes with like, just not being confident in your voice. Like as I've gone on, I really do like think to myself, how would I actually say this in person? Or like, how would I say it over a video? And that's what I say, or that's how I type it. Cause I've become more confident in my own voice. I think probably through this, and, just through other things. So writing things the way that I would talk to somebody about it, it just kind of solidifies the whole, like, this is who you get.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, you did it by practicing, right? you just did it on purpose for a while and it started to become easier. And when you work with clients, anybody here who works with clients in any capacity, the best thing you can do is create that personality connection in everything that you write. Don't waste emails, don't waste opportunities to like really convey who you are if there's a natural way to do it. Obviously, I'm not saying force it. Don't put slang into every single sentence if it's not how you would normally use slang. But it doesn't hurt. And
for me, like if I'm writing an email and I'm not quite sure, like I'm conveying what I really want to say, because sometimes there are measured emails and generally there are people I like don't interact with very much. Like if that's the case, then I do write differently to those people sometimes just because I don't know how they're going to take all of me.
Yeah.
Like we can, make it a little less direct. And I've also started doing that. Like I'm extremely direct. Me, I'm a bullet point person. But I've also learned to like put an exclamation point in and like things like that, you know, just because that is my personality, but it didn't come through on copy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, and I think it's really smart to consider your relationship and the progress of that relationship. Like in your first, like, let's think of it in terms of like a nurture sequence. In the first email you send to a new subscriber, you wouldn't drop your most intimate story, probably like the most intimate story you could possibly share, unless that's like part of your brand, unless that's like the whole point. But otherwise, you build that relationship the way you would with a real person in real life, which is in stages. Like the first time we spoke on the phone, I didn't come in dropping F-bombs the whole time. But like now, you know, after we've talked for a while, like I am fine with cursing, but I don't curse with people in my first interaction with them, because for some people that's really not comfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think, you know, I will. I honestly, sometimes I will just to measure them.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, is stuff that's going to come out of my mouth going to be a problem for you? Because I get passionate sometimes, and I use the F word sometimes. And is that a problem with you, for you? Because that's not going to work. Because at some point, and when I get comfortable enough, you're going to get an F-bomb or 2 or 3. So that's interesting. I actually had something else to say about that. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I totally support that approach. Dropping F-bombs to kind of gauge and have the response. I just know that for me, like it's taken work to get to where like I can naturally share how I normally speak. So it's just for my personality type. It's very uncomfortable to just do that right off the bat. I'm all for it though, Jamie. Like, anybody out there who's like, yeah, I think I want to start doing that, go for it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
And that's how this podcast works. So 100%, like all the feedback we get is because I'm so authentic, and I get my guests to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because people like to tell me stuff. So I might be one of those people that tells like a pretty intimate story up front, because that's what people end up doing with me a lot of the time. Like not always on camera, like probably rarely on camera, but I've been in meetings where like I literally met the person 10 minutes ago and they're telling us, he's telling me about their fertility journey. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, that speaks to the trust that you build, and that's worth so much. And like, I think again, like anybody, there are certain people for whom, like, if that's really your personality, and for you, Jamie, I know that it is, like that is a good way to approach. Are we talking about email copywriting?
Yeah,
emails, whatever it is, whatever communication you're doing,
right?
That's a good way to approach it. Just whatever you would normally do, do that.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. But yeah, it's just, you know, I just have one of those, I don't know, faces, personalities, whatever. Usually it's in person though, when people want to tell me like, you know, but like I've had like 2 coffees with somebody and they're telling me like their whole life story, like, you know, all the trauma, all the stuff. And I'm just like, apparently I'm a safe place for people somehow. Yeah. And that's awesome. Like, I'm happy to do that. And I think a lot of that is like the doula in me. Like, I think something about the non-judgmental like support thing that I've done as a doula that probably just kind of, you know, radiates out of me. Like, I'm not here to judge you. Like, tell me your life story. Is there anything you need help with?
Yeah. No, I think it's such a valuable thing. And I almost said skill, and I realized I'm not even sure it's a skill. It's kind of just,
sure it is either. It
speaks to a willingness to be present with whatever is happening with the other person, and to not judge them for it.
Actually, it's a skill. I'm going to say it's a skill because I didn't used to be like this.
Okay.
I used to spend a lot of time judging people for their birth choices. I used to like tell them what needed to happen. I used to make faces. Like I even have pictures of me making faces at one of my friends because I didn't agree with what she was telling me. So that it was a skill I had to hone. But I don't know, like being a doula has changed who I am, like, and has changed how I approach people. And how much grace I have for people and where they are in their lives and their priorities. And like, because birth is one of those places where like you really see what people's priorities are and like what's really important to them and how they make choices or don't make choices, but not making a choice is still making a choice. So through all of that, and just, you know me, I'm super curious. So like just through all of like just curiosity about like, why do people choose this? Why do people choose that? Like whatever. And it's just like, this is their birth. I'm just here to support them in whatever they need. That has changed how I feel about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because now it's just like, if you're not hiring somebody else, like, and that's a good decision for you or not a good decision for you or whatever, like you have things to learn still. I have things to learn still. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jamie, that sounds just like my coaching business.
That's
a really nice segue. No, but I mean, I think you're right in that there is a skill aspect to intentionally being open to the concept that other people might have different needs and that other people might have different concerns and ways of thinking about things. And when you're open to that and you're willing to listen, then it opens up a new set of possibilities for how you behave. And I think that is something that you can work on intentionally. I know it's something I worked on when I first started my coaching business too. There was that immediate reaction to like, you shouldn't be doing things that way. Here's how I think you should be doing things. But over the years, what I've realized is that there's no one way to do anything because everyone has different needs.
Yeah, we all have our lenses. We all have our priorities. We all have whatever. Like I'll have people come and be like, please don't judge me. My tax returns aren't done. And then they'll just tell me the whole life story about why the tax returns haven't been done for 3 years. And like, they'll cry at the end. And she's like, well, thanks for listening to me. And I'm like, okay, well, you're not a good fit for us. I wish I could help you. Like, I hope you feel better for just having this conversation. I was like, I'm not judging you at all. Like, and I always tell people like, I'm not here to judge you about where your books are. Like, I don't, why would I do that?
Yeah.
You have your skills. I have my skills. You have your priorities. I have my priorities. And you're probably doing stuff in your business that I don't even know I should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of the time people just get really, caught up on like whoever the expert is going to like judge them or like think less of them or whatever. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't. For some reason, this isn't a priority to you. And that's fine. Either you don't know how to do it, you didn't get the right person to do it, whatever. Okay, let's fix it.
Well, and if it's important, then yeah, fix it. If it's not important, then maybe it's not important, and that's okay. Like
when you can't sleep anymore because it's still out there, call me. We'll get it fixed.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So, what have you been up to? So give me kind of just like a cliff notes. I know you did some TED Talks and some stuff like that. So let's talk about that because I think all that kind of happened after we first met.
Yeah. So let's see. I am involved with, as you alluded to, with TEDx San Antonio, and I help organize some of their events. I'm on there's a new type of TED event, which depending on where you live, you might have heard about this or not, but called TED Circles. And so I'm the coordinator for that here in San Antonio, which is really fun. It's basically a way to like get groups of people together to watch a TED Talk and talk about it. So I've been coordinating those. Yeah, it is. They're like little mini masterminds and they're really great. We were just getting them started when the pandemic happened. So we've shifted to doing them online, which is great. Also, it's not quite as good as in person, but it's working. It's been fun. So that's been really good. And oh man, I don't know. Since we first met, so much has happened, Jamie.
I know. I was like, how long ago was that? Like, I literally don't know, but
yeah, it's been a bit.
We've been hanging out a lot recently. So
exactly.
We were like, hi, so good to see you. It's been a whole like 4 days.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the coaching stuff. So what is one of the biggest struggles business owners have with, prioritizing their work, and how do you help them?
Yeah.
Let's talk about gears because it's one of my favorite subjects.
Gears. Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah. So one of the biggest, that was a perfect setup for this. One of the biggest challenges that most business owners run into is on any given day, you could do everything you could possibly think of to do on your to-do list and still have like an infinity list going on after that, right? Like it kind of never ends.
It literally never ends.
It actually never ends. Literally never ends. Yeah. So what that leads to for a lot of us is, well, it can go a lot of different directions. I've learned. I used to think it just went one way towards burnout. It can lead towards burnout when you like every single day, you feel like you're not getting enough done. You feel like you're not accomplishing what you need to accomplish. it can also just lead to this constant sense of like, I'm not good enough if every day you're not reaching the goals that you set for that day, or you think, okay, I need to do all of these things today and I can't get it done. Anyway, there are lots of different ways it can manifest itself, but the way to help with that is to find a way to organize each day for itself. Most organization systems that I've encountered are either unnecessarily complicated, or they focus exclusively on long-term goals, or they really focus primarily on long-term goals. There is a benefit to focusing on long-term goals, of course, but most times the actual day-to-day gets kind of short shrift. It gets ignored as just like a way to get to your goals. So in walks Gears. I developed this routine. Oh man, I think we're approaching 3 years ago now. I use it every day still. So there's that. Jamie,
Yeah. I've been using it since we started coaching. Was that January?
It's been a bit.
Let me check my.
Maybe in November. One of us should have checked this before.
My January is full of Gears, so
okay.
It's been at least. Oh yeah, did we start coaching in November? Yeah, it must have been November.
Yeah.
I even do it sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah. So
especially if I want to sit down and work, because then I could because it's quiet, because then I can make more decisions about what I want to do. Yeah. So I even do it on Saturdays and Sundays if I'm working.
Awesome. So now that we've talked it up, let me tell everybody what it is. So Gears is, the way it works is this. You wake up in the morning, you don't have to do this first thing, but whenever you're about to start your work day, whatever the first like work related task is, you sit down and you either grab your sheet of paper and a pen, or you can do it digitally if you want. Either way is fine.
I just do it in my planner. So my planner is a weekly planner, and it just has the days of the week on the left, and there's like five lines for each day. Perfect. Which it works perfectly for my Gears. I was like, awesome. Wait, I can just put it in my planner. I was so excited. But I was just doing it on paper before that. And then at the end of the day, I check everything else off and toss it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. So Gears is an acronym, as you might have guessed by the fact that we're talking about 5 lines and writing it down. So if you imagine grabbing your notebook and writing down the letters GEARS, okay? Just either along the top or along in separate lines, doesn't matter. I don't care how you do it. Jamie, you do it your way.
There's no formula.
There's no formula. It's intentionally loose in this way. So under G or next to G, you write your goal for the day. And it's just your goal for that day. And it's just one goal, not a bunch of goals.
So I'm really bad at that part.
Yeah. It's actually really, this is one of the biggest challenges of Gears for most people. And it's totally okay. If you experiment with this, if you have like a primary goal and then a secondary goal, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. As long as you know what's most important, that's what matters. So you write your goal for the day. If you start your day and you're not sure what your goal for the day is yet, you can do the other letters and then come back to the G. That's totally fine. All right. Then the E in Gears stands for events. This part is super easy, but
it is integral to this whole thing.
Exactly. It is
absolutely necessary. And I do E first.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Most
me too,
days.
Actually. Me too. I should just start teaching it that way.
Most days, unless there's nothing on my calendar. Like I know there's nothing on my calendar that day, which is super rare. Yeah. But I do the E first.
Yeah.
Because that informs my G.
Nice. Oh yeah, exactly. Perfect. So E, for all you listeners who are wondering what it stands for, or maybe I already said, it stands for events.
Yes.
So it's events. And under E or next to E, you just write what times you have already scheduled things for the day. So this is any meetings you have with clients or with prospective clients or stuff that you have planned, like if you're going to see your personal trainer, like whatever you put, whatever's already scheduled with a time. And the reason for that is you know which blocks are already taken up and you're not you can't do anything else with them unless you move those things. So then after E, you write, you go to the letter A, which stands for actions. And this is your action list for the day. And these are things that are not scheduled with a time or not necessarily scheduled with a time. And they're just your kind of like typical to-do list things. Now, the trick here is that it's just actions for today, just for this one day. So you have to, it takes work. And this is probably the second most challenging thing when people start using Gears, but the actually most beneficial thing is to learn what you can actually reasonably accomplish in a day.
That's been the biggest benefit for me.
Yeah. and to learn how to set that from the beginning, because then you don't end the day with this feeling of, wow, I may have gotten a lot done, but I didn't do enough.
Right. I did jack.
Yeah,
the things I really needed to get done.
Mm-hmm. So if you start the day knowing I have these events scheduled and these are the actions I'm going to take, I generally encourage people to try to aim for fewer than 10 when you're starting out. Like put less than 10 on your action list. If you can put 5 on your action list, that's awesome.
2 or 3.
That's even better. Yeah.
but I've been doing this for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can add more when you finish. Like if you get through all of it, awesome. Like give yourself a pat on the back, like go like have a celebratory something, whatever you like to celebrate with. And then pick the next set of things that you're going to do. So then after actions is R, and that stands for rest.
I'm the worst at that one.
Yeah.
We know this.
Yes, this one is tough. It's tough for a lot of business owners, because there's this feeling of we do these things because we love them, or at least we care about them deeply. And also they're to help bring us freedom, to make us money, all that kind of stuff. So it can be hard to prioritize rest. But the reality is that all of us need to rest a decent amount to be able to do our best work. So under R, you're simply saying, okay, when am I going to finish my work for the day? Like you're sitting down at the beginning of the day and saying, okay, I'm going to finish my work by 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 11 p.m., 2 a.m. I don't care what time it is. It can be 10 a.m. That like you can just have a 2-hour long workday. That's fine. It doesn't matter when it is, but just give yourself that a level of awareness that when that time comes, you have permission to stop.
Yeah. And like during tax season and even like right now, I will just like write when dinner is and then how long I'm going to work after that. Sometimes I don't always know that's going to happen. And it does, just because it does happen. Sometimes we're trying to get stuff out the door. But I've done a better job of giving myself permission to have 2 time blocks, but also go to bed, Jamie.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I love that variation, because the whole point is just you're bringing awareness to the end of your day. People think and talk so much about how do we start our day? You know, there's all kinds of resources about morning routines, and those are great. Like I have mine. We all have our own things that we do to start the day, but how we end our day is just as important. And in some ways, depending on what you're running into, could be more important. So just bringing awareness to that, saying, okay, I'm going to either stop at this time, or I'm going to know that I can continue working at this time, but I know I'll go to bed by whatever. And there's no judgment around it. It's just checking in with what you need that day. And some days you may start your day and you may be like, whoa, things just got bad. I am dead now. I need to stop. I need to finish now. And when that happens, if you want, you can take your R and just rewrite it. Like, okay, it's 3 p.m. I thought I was going to go till 8 tonight. I'm done. 3 p.m. finished. I might come back if I want to, whatever you want to do, but just making it work for you.
Yeah. And then, initially it was really helpful for me to write my actuals in. I don't do that anymore because I like to fight the system, but like, it does, I do have to every day think, okay, what do I have tonight? What do I think I'm going to be doing? Like it gives, you're right. It's just a little more intention to that, the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And then after R is S, which stands for satisfaction. And this is really, I had a really rough experience. I think we talked about it on our previous episode. If we didn't, somebody, you can email me and we'll talk about it. Anybody listening, email me. We can talk about my experience with burnout. But what I realized, and what I think most people do, is when you get into a cycle where you're working yourself beyond your limits, it gets very easy to start ignoring your own needs and ignoring just basic enjoyable parts of life. You get into a cycle where it's only all about work. At least some of us, not everybody does this. So
I totally do that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Me too.
We know this about me.
Yeah, no, me too. This was one of my big struggles, which is part of why I created this. So under S, it's just saying, okay, today, what is one thing I'm going to do just because I enjoy doing it? It doesn't have to be for any other reason. I know I have a tendency to try to monetize hobbies. I like to try to think of ways to turn a hobby into a business. It's a way to say like, no, this is just for fun. This is just for because I like to do it. Or it can be just because like, and it could be anything. So under satisfaction, you could say, I'm going to go for a walk. Or you could say, I'm going to sit and have tea with my friend today. Or I guess in our pandemic era, having
We're going to Zoom.
with somebody,
We're going to Zoom.
Yeah, we're going to Zoom. Or it can be like, I'm going to lay on the floor and do nothing for 15 minutes. That's cool. Play an instrument. You can do work-related things too, but because you want to do them, like sometimes work-related things can be enjoyable, but anyway, so it can be anything you want under S.
It's funny that you said like you try to make hobbies monetize. Like I just started knitting and I was like, I wonder if I should start a shop on Etsy.
Yes.
I'm actually kind of good at this.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
My husband would kill me. He knows that's how I am.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't have hobbies.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with turning a hobby into a business. Like it's kind of the dream, right? I mean, that's totally really cool when you can do it. Mm-hmm. But if every hobby immediately becomes work, then it's not a hobby anymore, right? It's not fun anymore, or it very quickly will become.
Exactly. And I was just like, no, you dummy.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah. Like Jamie, I used to be a musician. Mm-hmm. So for anybody listening, I used to be a classical musician, played the viola and at a very high level. And so when I finally left that field and I started my own business, music is still part of my life. It was always going to be part of my life. But I realized that I had to find a way to play music that didn't immediately trigger like a lot of self-judgment and a lot of awareness about what was right and what was wrong. And was I doing it the best? And how could my technique be better? And all this other stuff. So what I had to do was find other music to play on the viola that was not at all related to the stuff that I normally got paid for. And then ultimately what I've done now is I've just started playing with other instruments where like I'm never going to be professional level on guitar or ukulele or anything like that. So like I can just have fun and then not even worry about that side.
Yeah. I think, especially those of us who tend to like dive deep into our craft, like I'm extremely tax technical. Like I'm like next level sometimes. And it's just like, what? I will go down rabbit holes to like find stuff and whatever. And I'm just like, this isn't necessary. Like, and also this isn't fun anymore. Like that's why I started doing tax planning, because then it's fun again, right? Because then I can take that technical and actually create puzzles out of it, and then it's fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I get paid for that, so.
Yeah, exactly. So let's
I'm on my second knitting project, and I'm like, I should monetize this.
You're ready to start your shop.
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
I'll buy something from you.
Okay.
So with gears, just to kind of wrap gear or to put a bow on gears, at least from a how to do it standpoint, just writing down each of those 5 things each morning, and you're just doing it for that day. So when tomorrow comes, you're writing it fresh again, like starting new. If you didn't finish some things from the day before, totally fine. You can move them over to today, to the next day, whatever day it is. But don't just like have a gears that's like forever. Don't have a gears that never changes and you just add things to it, because then it's just a to-do list. It's just another thing to fail at. Let it be for that day. And then when the day ends, it's gone. You're finished with that gears. You move on to the next one.
Yeah. I always look and I'm like, is there anything that was important there? Okay. Well, I should probably pay the credit card bill. I forgot to do that yesterday. Like that didn't get done yesterday. So let's move it to today. So what are some of the results you're seeing with, this tool? This tool has changed my life. Or, it's changed my work life. Just every day I'm just like, okay, here's what needs to get done. And I get to do little check marks on stuff. What are the biggest results you've seen in your coaching clients? And you can ask me too, but we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things that happens is you gain a sense of confidence over your ability to run your own life. That sounds kind of trite. So I don't mean it in that way. But it's really, a lot of us start from this place of, especially when you're first starting your business, although even people who have been in business for 5, 6, 7 years experience this too, we're like, we still feel like we're working in a job for someone else. Like there's still a right way and a wrong way. And if we don't do things the right way, according to someone else, then we're doing it wrong. And what this tool gives you in a very, well, I was going to say roundabout, but really it's actually pretty straightforward. In a very straightforward way is the ability to see, okay, this is how I'm going to set up my day today. And this is what I'm going to do because it works for me. And for no other reason than like, this is what I need to do. This is how I prioritize my needs. So it vastly increases the confidence and the ability to do your work without the need for somebody else telling you good job. Obviously I like having somebody else tell me that I'm doing a good job and that like I did enough.
Yeah.
But it helps with that a lot. And it also improves just getting stuff done.
Well, yeah, it makes you more accountable to you. Right. And it's less overwhelming. Than my lists and lists of tasks, which I also have, but I usually go to them and I'm like, what is that thing I wanted to do today? Okay. Do I want to do that or do I want to move it?
Yeah.
But I get to choose.
Exactly.
Right. I think the biggest impact for me is really realizing that I can't get done what I think I want to get done. Like just bringing down the optimism a lot on that. And also where's the biggest energy expenditures for me? Like literally yesterday was that yesterday? What day is it? Is it Thursday? Tuesday. I really don't ever know what day it is anymore. It's working Saturday number 100 and something at this point. It was Tuesday. I just had back-to-back events. Right. So I wrote down on my events and my goal literally says see below.
Yep.
Because I just knew, I just know now that is going to take all of my energy for the day. A lot of this stuff, as much as I love to do it, it completely takes me out. Yeah. So I just know.
Yeah.
And that's 4 events, a couple phone calls, and I was like, and I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a huge one. That was a big one for me too when I started using this, because I used to still, on days like that, I would still expect myself to get a bunch of other things done.
That's how I was too. I was like, and I'll review a tax return, and I'll clean out my inbox, and I'll do.
Yeah. It's like you're punishing yourself for being busy.
Yeah,
I'm busy. Okay. Well, now I have to do more, which is not helpful and actually is backwards in terms of your long-term ability to do that work. But today is a day like this for me. So just totally transparent on this, because I have a lot of meetings and talking to people and client calls and sales calls today. It's like, all right, I'm going to get through the day. And if there are other things that I want to do because I can fit them in, that's fine. But I know because of the certain types of things I have today that I just can't pack it in. I can't do the whole day nonstop. I will need to have time to sit quietly and not talk to anybody and not really think about anything so that I can recharge. And that's just me realizing what I need for today. Other days, I can sit at my desk, no interruptions, and work all day and have no problems. And it's great. But every day is unique. And because of that, we get the ability to choose what to do with it.
Yeah. And just kind of being also mindful about how you feel that day. I haven't been sleeping well. So it's I kind of take that into account, I think subconsciously too. And I'm just what really needs to happen today? Or do I need a nap? Do I have time for a nap? And I think it gives you, you said control. So you don't feel like you have to work 8 to 5 or whatever. You can be oh, I could fit another event in, or I can schedule something somewhere else because I know what my time blocks look like. Right. And I do time blocking on my calendar and all of that. So it's really easy for me to just open my calendar and be oh, okay, that's what's and just write it down. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is really what can I handle in a day. And that, so you say S is satisfaction. I've been calling it self-care.
Nice.
When I teach it to people, I've taught it to my staff, and we all post ours every day in our threads. But it's what is self-care for you? And it's really interesting to think about, So a lot of the time mine's just knit a few rows because I'm working on this gigantic baby blanket right now, and it literally takes me 20 minutes to do a row. So yeah, it's what would give me some brain space or help me recharge or whatever. And we've been walking every day too. And so that's always on my list too.
Yeah. No, I mean, self-care is exactly what it is. And I think a lot of us have a tendency to binge self-care, that we get into places, at least I used to do this, and I've had a number of clients who do this, where we will work really, really hard, consistently for months at a time, and then realize one day, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything for myself in 4 months and I feel exhausted and I hate everything that I'm doing and I'm reacting in like ways that I normally wouldn't, more angrily and more cynically. And now I think a lot of people realize, okay, well, that means I need self-care. And you can binge self-care in a way, like you can take a week off and like just have an enjoyable, very relaxed time and do whatever you need to recharge. But the long-term benefit is more in finding small forms of self-care on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to look a specific way, but not binging it is probably the way to, for most of us, have a more sustainable work life.
Yeah. And I think you get better at not feeling guilty about that self-care. And like when we say self-care, we are not talking about like 5 days at the spa. We're talking about like having your favorite drink or like just picking something tiny. Or, hey, maybe you haven't been to the dentist in 3 years and you really need to make an appointment. That's also self-care, right? So, for me, Nick and I went to Mexico 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And I literally for the first 3 days didn't feel like I needed to, like I deserved to be there because I hadn't been taking care of me, I think. Like this was just not, I couldn't shift a gear to get there. Like I was just like, my business isn't what I want it to be. Like this is not happening. And like I just was so in my head about like taking care of myself of going on a vacation for a week with my husband. It was just weird headspace stuff.
Yeah. Did you feel guilty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt guilty. I didn't check my emails. I didn't do anything. But then I come home, come back to a whole pile of stuff. And it's just like, I knew that was going to happen. And I couldn't, after a couple of days, I was definitely got better, but it was just this first few days. I was just like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, why did I take this time off? Like my business isn't where it's supposed to be. I need to be, hustling pedal to the metal, all that stuff. And I realized real quick that wasn't going to really work. We worked our butts off to take that vacation,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and there's, you just reminded me of the kind of the second level. I don't mean to describe it in levels because it sounds very cut and dry. Like you get from level 1 into level 2 and then you never have to work on level 1 stuff again. But once you kind of have a handle on regular small forms of self-care, then one of the things that happens to some of us, and I say some of us because I know people who don't have a problem with this. I know I had a problem with this. I don't know if I've ever told you about this, Jamie.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So one of the things that I really struggled with, I don't know, about a year into using years actually, was getting to the point where I was performing self-care. Okay. So like I would know like, okay, I know that I need to stop work at a certain time. I know I need to take, a day off every now and again. I know that I need to do certain things to feel okay. So then it just became something else that like was automatic and I would just do it regardless of whether or not it actually was helping me. And then I would also do it regardless of what was actually happening internally. Right. So like you can take a day off and that's great. But if the whole day, all you're doing is thinking about work, are you taking a day off? Same, if you're in Mexico in the first 3 days, you're only thinking about how guilty you feel for being there. Is that really a vacation? And I think, I don't say all of this to say like, that's bad because I've been there.
I think it's totally normal.
It happens. It's totally normal. But I think a lot of people, when they hit that, they don't realize that it's okay and that it happens. And really the way to manage it, the way that I found to manage it that works most for me is to really just find a way to re-engage with the place and time where I am. So if I am trying to take a day off and I'm worried about work stuff the whole time, then how can I really engage with being wherever I am at that moment and in the place that I am and with who I am, whether that's if I'm having a drink of something, like actually focusing on what it tastes like and not just sipping it while I think about work. And sometimes it's okay to decide that you need to do a tiny bit of work on a day off to feel okay in order to feel like, all right, I managed it. And that's okay too.
And I think we can, if we acknowledge it, so this is all just like meditation stuff, but like if you acknowledge it, then you can actually handle it. Right. So you can say, oh, that's interesting. what am I going to do with it? You know, you can just kind of acknowledge it or just decide whatever. But I do find that if I just kind of am like, I feel like I should be working right now. Okay. What would I be working on? How important really is that? Did I promise it to somebody, or do I just feel like it needs to get done? Is that going to make me grumpy later? Like, you know, I can actually kind of look at it in a way as like, maybe I don't need to be working right now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go do something else. Or I'm not going to go do something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to go take a nap. But that's, you know, the acknowledgement of those feelings. You know, I even told my husband when we were in Mexico, I was like, I just don't feel like I deserve this vacation, which is so weird. I've never had that. I've never been at that part of my business and felt like that, or like worked for other people and not felt like I deserved a vacation. Like I could just get all be on fire and I'd be like, see ya.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just different. I think it's more different. It's different. It's when it's your business, which is why business owners don't tend to take a lot of vacations.
Yeah.
Because it's like leaving our babies in the hands of people and we're not sure how that's all going to go.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's also just like a psychological, am I where I want to be?
Yeah.
Is this the end all be all goal?
Exactly. Oh yeah. Well, and that's where, I mean, to me, it's funny because now if you ask me right now what my pet peeve is, one of my pet peeves that is actually like a long-standing one is people who turn challenges like this into something that you've done wrong. So like if you were to come to me and say, yeah, I went on vacation and the first 3 days, all I could, you know, I just couldn't like be there and I couldn't enjoy it or really feel like I was on vacation. Then there are people out there who would say, oh, well, that's just a choice. You just need to choose to be happy in that moment and to choose to not have those feelings. And maybe that works for some people. Like maybe that approach works for some people.
Don't know who that works.
It's not me. And it's an approach that there are a lot of people out there who approach this way. But at the end of the day, it's just got to be about acknowledging what is happening. Like you're experiencing something. So if you try to tell yourself you're not experiencing it, you're basically gaslighting yourself.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yourself, you are crazy and you don't know what you're experiencing.
Right. It's like, I know. Yeah. Anytime somebody's like, well, my gut says this, I'm like, well, then listen to it, you know? Exactly. And I have to do that for myself too. Like I was telling Travis about a situation I had yesterday and I just had a moment where I was like, this is not going to happen. My body literally was like, no. Like I could feel it, like my stomach drop out. And I was like, this is not for me, you know? And if we don't acknowledge those feelings and then decide what to do with them, but if we have to acknowledge them first, right? And so that's what's been, you know, huge for me too, is I used to work in a firm where like the partner would literally say, we don't have feelings here. And I'd be like, well, that's not how people work. Because I was like managing all these people. I was like, we have to at least listen to them, right? Like they get to feel their feelings. Like this is even before I was a doula. I was like, you know, like, yeah. Because I guess apparently I'm more woo now than I was before then. But like, they don't get to have their feelings? Really? Huh. That's interesting. We're all just little robots, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, and I think it's funny because I think a lot of people who are listening are probably like, yeah, I mean, I would never approach my business that way. I would never ask somebody to not have feelings. But how often do we do that to ourselves? Like if if you've ever chosen to fully ignore your emotions, or if you've just pushed through, like there are times and places where we just have to push through.
Absolutely.
There's a
time
I'm not saying
that's not true.
Of course. Right. Exactly. Like I think we agree on this. But I think, I know for me, one of the turning points for me in my life and one of the things that I've worked with several clients on is realizing that, okay, one, I'm not allowing myself to have feelings. I'm not, I may absolutely agree that you should have feelings and you should be able to operate your business in a way that respects those. but I would never let myself actually do that. So realizing that, having that awareness, and then taking action to learn how to see what those feelings are and to learn how to actually honor them. That's been a huge part of growth. And honestly, it's something I expect to do for the rest of my life. I mean, based on my personality, I expect to continue to have to work on that. And that's okay. And for some people, that may be the easiest thing in the world. But either way, if you're like me, and that's one of the things you're struggling with, it can get easier. It's just a matter of saying, wait, am I being a bad boss? Am I being the worst kind of boss to myself?
Right.
Or am I being supportive and having empathy for myself?
It's really funny. So I was interfacing with one of my staff the other day, and she has had this thing that she's just let like fester. And I was like, because I actually asked her to do it for a client that I was supposed to be wrapping up. And I was like, oh, and do the other ones while you're at it. And she did. And I was like, how does that feel? And she's like, you're kidding, right? And I was like, no, really. How does it feel? And she's like, lighter. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I told you to do it forever ago. Because I'm trying to look out for you. But like, we let stuff weigh us down because we want to move on to the next thing or whatever. And now she's got a whole nother list somewhere of these things that didn't get done. And I was like, you're done. It's done. Those things are done. It's like, it's done. Instead of kind of done now. I was like, yeah, I don't do well with stuff sitting out there because it just feels heavy, And so a lot of my self-care is just wrapping shit up, and she doesn't really that doesn't really resonate with her. So I actually I took the wrap up part because it's like, then I know it's going to get done. It's going to get done. And then we don't ever have, we don't have to think about it again for a little bit, because I don't do well with just all this limbo stuff. But I do understand that some people feel more useful when they have things that they haven't completed yet. Right. So that's like a mindset thing for people.
Yeah. It's a mindset thing and a personality type thing, I think too. Something I'll just, I know we may not want to get into this at length, but
that's okay.
Something that's helped my coaching business and honestly has been absolutely instrumental in copywriting in general is thinking about personality types from a more open-minded and understanding standpoint. So I spent a lot of time over the last year studying the Enneagram, which just for me happens to align with a lot of things and resonates with me really nicely. So if you've never looked into Enneagram and you're wanting to either understand yourself on a deeper level or people you work with or employees or whatever, it can be really helpful and interesting for, there's 9 types and then there's also subtypes and then there's wings and your relationships. There's tons of depth if you're interested in that. And it's helped me gain a much deeper understanding for my wife. If I asked her if she were a coaching client, which that would never happen, but if she was a coaching client of mine and I said how does that feel to you? Or what do you feel like you need right now? I know based on conversations we've had since exploring Enneagram together that she doesn't operate in that way. The way that she thinks or the way she experiences the world is almost entirely through her thought, through thinking, not through feeling, not through, it's not that she doesn't have emotion, she does, but the way she experiences the world is through verbal thinking. So it's very simple to just shift those questions what are you thinking? Or what do you think about that? It's a really small thing, but it means that you can have a much more understanding relationship and better conversations and all of that as a result.
I'm all squinting my eyes at you now. Have you been Enneagramming me? So what is your favorite resources for Enneagram while I have you?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the first places that I learned about Enneagram was on Enneagram Institute, I think is what it's called. And there are a bunch of places you can take tests online if you're curious about what type you might be. It's just kind of as a general thing, it's a good idea to read into it a little bit if you're on the fence about what type you might be, because the best, the old school way is to understand it, read about it, thoroughly understand it, and then determine what type you are. Most people approach it the opposite, and that's how I came into it too. It's totally okay.
Me too. Yeah, I had somebody that I was working with ask me to test, right? And then we just kind of took, and then I also asked a bunch of people how it helped them and things like that. And so we just kind of took all that data and kind of decided what I was. Which I don't think she really knew enough about it, but nobody's surprised I'm a 1.
Yeah.
I'm also an Aries. Like, that doesn't really surprise any of us that I'm a 1. Sometimes I think I might be a 9, but I've scored pretty much the same on those two. And the person that I was with, they're like, oh, I think you're probably more than 9. And then they really kind of got to know me a little better. They're like, yep, you're the 1.
Well, and that gets to a way that Enneagram is often used in offices in a very like prescriptive way. And that is a no-no, at least for a lot of people that I know. And I would personally try to avoid using it that way, because you can't ever, like, the whole point with Enneagram is that it's about your intention and like your inner experience. I can't tell you what your inner experience is. Your behavior might look a certain way, but I don't know why. I don't know what led to that. And that's for me, that's where a lot of deeper understanding about myself has come, is realizing, okay, I know I behave a certain way, but what's leading to that? Like, what is it that's leading to that? And it's not so much about putting myself in a box, which I always resisted. When somebody first told me about Enneagram, I was like, no, that sounds stupid. I
love personality tests. I love personality tests.
Yeah.
But if you line them all up, which I've literally taken like the Colby, and I took another one with Intuit like a while ago, and like literally if you line like Strength Scope, like literally if you line them all up,
yeah, exactly.
You know, and I also understand I tend to be more self-aware. I'm not saying I don't have blind spots. I probably have plenty of those, but I tend to be more self-aware than I think some people are. And so like my personality tests pretty much all tell the same story. Because I know what resonates with me and what doesn't resonate with me. And I know which one like might be an outlier, like a shit day that day when I took it or whatever. But yeah, when I took the Enneagram, I'm like, reformer. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that doesn't really surprise anybody. And I think I had my mom read it and she was like, yeah. My daughter's probably a 1 too.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't really do things like people want us to. Which, yeah, that's when we would bump against those. I don't know what they are, but
yeah,
no, thank you. All right, so we're gonna wrap up because we could do this all day.
Of course.
And I have something and you have something. So before I ask my last question, what is the easiest way for people to find you?
Ooh, yeah. So there are 2 really easy ways. Actually, there's one easiest way, and that would be LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, Travis Baird. And then I have 2 websites. So if you're interested in like checking out the work that I do, either my mindful business coaching or as a copywriter, mindfulproductive.com or visualizedcopy.com.
I like it. I love the name Visualized Copy.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Really
I'll tell Megan came up with that, so I will tell her you send your.
All right, I love it. And I just wanted to say I really like Enneagram and Coffee, the podcast. She's really good. And she really like does a really good job of breaking stuff down. And she even has a whole series on like the common mistypes. I don't think she's done 1 in 9 yet, because that's the one I need her to do. Yes. It's been a while since I've checked, but that's a really good, like, and she does little small podcasts, which, you know, I like. I like little pieces to listen to. So that's a really good one. I really like her. She's got this really nice, like soft, like voice. And I just, you know, she's soothing. I love it. Yeah. So what is the one most impactful tool you recommend for business owners?
Well,
we could do gears, but
gears, absolutely. I'd say other than that, I mean, just in general, developing any kind of mindful awareness practice. It doesn't have to be any particular thing. Like, you know, it'd be easy to say, oh, you need to study in this tradition and you need to do this exact practice. To me, it's more about just having some way of building awareness of, depending on how you normally operate. If you tend to be very internally aware, then maybe it's about becoming more externally aware. Or if you tend to be very much out in the world, then like maybe finding a way to come in. But there are so many different meditation and mindfulness practices. So any way you can build some kind of awareness practice into your life, it opens up tons of doors. I find it to be, for myself, incredibly thrilling and endlessly entertaining to just continue exploring and learning new things in that way.
Yeah. You know, and it's so funny because meditation is like something that a lot of people are like, well, I'm not good at it. And it's like, nobody's good at meditation.
Nope.
Anyone
who says they're good, they probably don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where like, there's like, oh, you should sit up straight and blah, 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 blah. I lay down to do my meditations and sometimes I fall asleep and I don't feel bad about that,
Yep.
Because that's what I needed at the time. Right. And I think, I just do 10 minutes. And I didn't do it today. Full disclosure. You can smack me in the hand later.
No,
but
it's okay. It's totally
I know
okay.
because I have control over what I need. Right. And I needed it, but I just didn't make time for it this morning. I had other things I needed to do.
Okay. It'll be there for you later today or tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's what I've also given myself a little leeway on. Like, I want to do it the first thing before I hop into my gears or whatever, but sometimes I just don't. So I'll do it later, like after all my appointments are done, or I'll do it at night while I'm, doing some exercises, or I'll just not do it. But it does help me at least breathe for 10 minutes. And that's where, that's what's important to me. I get a little bit of mind clarity for a few minutes, maybe not the whole 10, generally not the whole 10 unless I fall asleep. But it's that time for yourself. It's that S.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has impact outside of the context of the actual time that you're spending, right? Mm-hmm. Just having that time, like prioritizing, I'm going to spend this time and I'm not going to be productive. Like that can be really jarring at first, but it's freeing because you realize, okay, I have the ability to do this because I believe that it has a positive impact for me, whatever that is. And then you realize, oh, I can do that with other things in my life too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, I know it's so funny because it's just like these little tiny like things, they just add up to less overwhelm. And that's the biggest impact, I think like the gears has had on me and the practice to just 10 minutes of meditation. And I probably get like 4 out of 7 days usually. But even that, it's just, I don't know. Like I'm just not as stressed. And it's been very stressful for me the last few weeks. I know. Travis is like, what do you need today? Because I know stuff is sideways. So, it just helps. It just kind of helps me at least find a little bit of quiet. Although the family's just running around or whatever. My son will like walk up to me and like look down at me and be like, oh, she's meditating. And then he'll walk off. But I'm also modeling that for them. So usually I do it. They're awake. They're running around, whatever. And so I'll just put my earbuds in and turn it up and, work on my exercise by pretending they're not here.
Yep.
It's like when they get really close and my Bluetooth goes off and I'm just like, oh, why do you want a child? My mommy Bluetooth, I like to call it.
Nice.
That's why they've always slept in their own rooms because then the Bluetooth doesn't go off as much and I can sleep.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're out of range. They're out of range, kid. So I don't know. That's a weird my brain thing, probably. I don't think I've ever had another mom talk about it like that. But.
No, it's cool. Yeah.
Travis, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jamie. This was a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening or watching. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you prefer to listen. If you learned something and found some useful information to apply to your business today, please consider giving us a thumbs up and a review. Until next week, be abundant.